Hello, this is a tutorial created by the Loughborough University Design for Energy team. The focus of this tutorial is on the Design for Energy Good GBXML guidelines developed to support the architects when designing in Revit with energy analysis in mind. Using BIM as a starting point for building energy performance analysis could enable cooperation with other building-related disciplines and help reduce workload by using a single building modeling representation across all software tools required. However, when using BIM for energy analysis, one can face certain limitations. The limitations relate to interoperability issues between BIM models and energy performance analysis software and have been well reported in previous studies. To proceed with energy analysis of a building using BIM, the addition and/or modification of some of the input parameters is required. At the same time, different BIM software tools have been found to contain different information in the GBXML export. The lack of transparency of the data exported from BIM and omissions of information when loading to a building energy software have been identified as two key constraints in the BIM to BEM workflow. Although previous work has focused on the creation of automated processes to identify and resolve problems with the transfer of data, the modular's performance and the design practices used will most likely have a significant impact on the quality of data exported. A guide providing detailed information on how to design in Revit with energy analysis in mind is the EDSL Guide for Revit GBXML file. Based on the existing guide, the Design for Energy Good GBXML guidelines have been developed. There are 20 guidelines, and although most can be applied to facilitate any BIM to BIM process, some of the guidelines relate to steps that are specific to the Design for Energy proposed workflow. One example is that the simple and simple with shading export options are only supported. The guidelines are publicly available and can be found using the link provided. The guidelines are explained one by one, and the workflow to apply each guideline is demonstrated using the Revit 2016 environment. Step 1. The calculation of the areas and volumes needs to be enabled. Step 2. Coarse view and thin lines are recommended to be able to identify multiple layers and resolve them. Step 3. All columns need to be set as non-room bounding. Step 4. Interference checks need to be run and resolve any warnings about overlapping building elements when possible. Step 5. Change the function of external walls and ground floors to exterior. Step 6. Make half-height internal walls non-room bounding. Step 7. Replace bay windows with windows directly on the main wall. Step 8. Use the automatically embed option to place curtain glazing within walls instead of making holes in the wall's profile. Step 9. Assign spaces to all areas including lifts, risers and voids. Step 10. Assign space to roof so that it can be extracted from Revit. Otherwise it is ignored. Step 11. Ensure space limits are sufficient for each space to have a bounding element or another space at the top and bottom. Step 12. Ensure spaces are set to unoccupied by unticking the occupiable selection and unconditioned where or when required. Step 13. Add zones and assign spaces. Step 14. Add separate zone to unoccupied spaces. Step 15. In Analyze Energy Settings, Energy Model, Building Services, set appropriate settings. Step 16. Occupancy, lighting and equipment settings can be addressed in each space individually. The relevant schedules are linked to the building type option during GPXML export and can be viewed in Manage, MEP Settings, Building Space Type Settings. Step 17. Infiltration can be set by selecting the zone and managing the energy analysis options or by following point 16 above. Step 18. Heating system can be set by following point 16 above but is not transferred in GBXML. Step 19. In the GBXML export options, ensure that appropriate settings are defined for the building. The export category needs to be set to spaces, the export complexity needs to be set to simple or simple with shading. The building construction needs to be selected and the None should be clicked to ensure that the actual constructions and thermal properties of the elements are not overridden by defaults. In the case of the new builds, these can be used. Step 20. Export GBXML and check on a viewer.